August 15th, 1977. A radio telescope picks up something. 72 seconds of data. The astronomer stares at the numbers, grabs a red pen, circles the signal, writes one word. Wow. We've been listening for 47 years. It never repeated. But that's not the only signal. In 2007, astronomers detected a burst of energy. It lasted 5 milliseconds. Released more energy than our sun does in a year. We still don't know what causes them. There's something orbiting Earth. It's been there for 13,000 years. SETI found a signal so strange, they never announced it. But the most terrifying signal is silence. Since the invention of radio, we've been shouting into the void. Television broadcasts, military radar, cell phone signals. All of it leaking into space. For over a century, we've been announcing our existence to anyone listening. But while we were broadcasting, a few scientists started asking a different question. What if someone is broadcasting back? In 1960, astronomer Frank Drake pointed a radio telescope at two nearby stars, Project Ozma, the first organized search for extraterrestrial intelligence. He found nothing, but the search had begun. For 64 years, we've aimed our dishes at the sky, listening, waiting, hoping. And in that time, we've detected signals that should not exist. Signals from distances we can barely comprehend, from sources that shouldn't be there. These are 5 of them. Number 5, the Black Knight Satellite, Colorado Springs, 1899. Nikola Tesla sits alone in his laboratory at 3 in the morning. He's built the most sensitive radio receiver in the world. Tonight, he's listening to the sky. Then, he hears something. Regular pulses. 1, 2, 3. A pattern. Repeating. Not from any earthly source he can identify. Tesla writes in his journal, "I have observed electrical actions which have appeared inexplicable. The feeling is constantly growing on me that I had been the first to hear the greeting of one planet to another." The scientific community called him insane. But Tesla wasn't the only one who heard something strange. Norway, 1928. Researchers detect strange radio echoes, signals bouncing back with impossible delay times. The echoes returned seconds later than physics allowed, as if something in orbit was catching the signals and sending them back. Then came 1954, the year that changed everything. Newspapers worldwide printed the same impossible headline. The U.S. Department of Defense had detected 2 objects orbiting Earth. The problem? It was 1954. No nation on Earth had put anything into orbit yet. Sputnik was still 3 years away. The story disappeared from headlines within weeks. Officially, it never happened. But the military kept watching. In 1960, the U.S. Navy's Dark Fence radar system tracked something massive in polar orbit. It was tumbling, it was dark, and it was not ours. They called it the Black Knight. Decades passed. The Black Knight became legend. Conspiracy theory, easy to dismiss. Then, in 1998, astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour photographed something during the STS-88 mission. NASA's official explanation? A thermal blanket lost during a spacewalk. But the photos tell a different story. This is what a thermal blanket looks like in space, and this is what the astronauts photographed. Rigid, angular, structured. These don't look like the same thing. Skeptics say the Black Knight is a combination of misidentified space debris and wishful thinking. But that doesn't explain Tesla's signals in 1899. It doesn't explain the Norwegian echoes in 1928. It doesn't explain how the U.S. military detected orbital objects 3 years before any nation could put them there. Some researchers believe the Black Knight has been watching us for over 13,000 years, since before human civilization began, watching, waiting, recording everything we've broadcast since we first discovered radio. What if it already sent its report home? And what if that signal reached its destination decades ago? The Black Knight's silence might be the most unsettling thing about it. But the black night isn't the only signal that makes scientists uncomfortable. Number 4. SHGB02 plus 14A, the signal from nowhere. Berkeley, California, March 2003. A graduate student is analyzing data from SETI Home, the world's largest distributed computing project, millions of home computers crunching radio telescope data, searching for patterns. Most of it is noise. Satellites, cell phones, microwave ovens. The universe is surprisingly loud with our own garbage. But then the student sees something different. A signal detected not once, not twice, 3 times over 4 months. Same frequency, same location, same properties. Too consistent to be random noise. Too weak to be terrestrial interference. The signal originated from a point between the constellations Pisces and Aries, approximately 1,000 light-years from Earth. And here's where it becomes impossible. There's nothing there. No star, no planet, no known astronomical object. Just empty space. The signal came from a void. Dr. Dan Wertheimer, chief scientist of SETI Home, analyzed the signal himself. He found something remarkable. The signal was transmitting at exactly 1420 megahertz, the hydrogen line, the most fundamental frequency in the universe. This is the frequency SETI scientists always believed an intelligent civilization would use to communicate. Because it's universal. Any civilization with radio technology would know this frequency exists. But SHG-B02 plus 114A had another property that made astronomers deeply uncomfortable. The signal was drifting. Its frequency was shifting in a way that suggested the source was moving. Fast, either spinning rapidly or traveling at enormous speed. This isn't how natural signals behave. Pulsars don't do this. Quasars don't do this. Nothing we know of does this. The mainstream explanation is simple. Random interference, equipment glitches, human error. But random interference doesn't appear 3 times from the same coordinates over 4 months. And Earth-based interference doesn't originate from a fixed point 1,000 light-years away. Here's what keeps researchers awake at night. If something is transmitting from that void, it's either a spacecraft in transit or something we have no framework to understand. The SETI team continued monitoring the coordinates for years. The signal never returned. Whatever sent SHG-B02 plus 14A has gone silent, or it moved on. Destination unknown. 3 detections. Perfect frequency. Intelligent drift pattern. Then nothing. Just another file in the SETI archives marked unexplained. But not all mysterious signals whisper from the void. Some of them scream. Number 3. Fast radio bursts. In 2007, astronomer Duncan Lorimer was reviewing old telescope data when he found something that made him check his equipment 3 times. A burst of radio energy from 3 billion light-years away. It lasted 5 milliseconds. In that tiny fraction of a second, it released more energy than our sun produces in an entire year. Lorimer thought it was a glitch, an error, some kind of equipment malfunction. Then other telescopes started detecting them too. Dozens. Then hundreds. Since 2007, we've detected over 600 fast radio bursts from across the universe. They come from everywhere. Distant galaxies, nearby star systems, random points in the cosmic void. No pattern, no warning. The mainstream explanation points to magnetars, neutron stars with magnetic fields 1 trillion times stronger than Earth's. When they release energy, they release it violently. In 2020, we detected a fast radio burst from inside our own galaxy, a magnetar called SGR 1935. It seemed to confirm the theory. Case closed. Except it didn't explain everything. Some fast radio bursts repeat. FRB 121102 has been bursting for over a decade, sometimes silent for months, then hundreds of bursts in hours. Magnetars don't behave like this. In 2022, astronomers detected something even stranger. FRB 2022-0912A was producing bursts with a peculiar pattern. The frequency dropped in a specific way each time, like a signature, like a calling card. Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb has proposed an alternative explanation. What if some fast radio bursts aren't natural at all? What if they're propulsion systems? Giant radio beams pushing light sails across interstellar distances. The energy required would be staggering, but it would explain the power, the brevity, and the repetition. Departure schedules. Most scientists dismiss this as speculation. There's no evidence, they say. But there's also no evidence that definitively rules it out. We simply don't know what's causing 600 explosions across the universe. Every few seconds, somewhere in the observable universe, another fast radio burst screams across space. Most of them we never detect. The universe is full of signals we're not equipped to hear. But while scientists debate what's screaming from distant galaxies, another signal arrived from much closer to home, just 4 light-years away, from the nearest star to our sun. Number 2, BLC-1, April 2019. The Parkes Radio Telescope in Australia is pointed at Proxima Centauri, the closest star to our sun, just 4.2 light-years away. Proxima Centauri has at least 2 planets. One of them, Proxima b, sits in the habitable zone. The right distance for liquid water. The right conditions for life. If there's a neighbor worth watching, it's this one. The telescope was listening for signs of stellar flares, routine stellar activity. What it detected was anything but routine. A narrow band signal at 982.02 megahertz. Incredibly specific. Natural cosmic sources don't produce signals this precise. They're broadband. Messy. This was a clean, tight beam. Like a radio station. The signal appeared only when the telescope was pointed at Proxima Centauri. When they moved the dish away, it vanished. Pointed back, it returned. For 5 hours. The Breakthrough Listen project, funded by billionaire Yuri Milner specifically to search for extraterrestrial intelligence, had found something they couldn't immediately explain. They called it BLC-1, Breakthrough Listen Candidate 1. For the first time in SETI history, a signal checked almost every box, coming from a star with potentially habitable planets, narrow band, appearing only from that specific direction, lasting for hours. The team kept the discovery secret for months while they investigated. They knew what was at stake. If this was real, it would be the most important discovery in human history. If they were wrong, they'd be a laughingstock. They analyzed the signal from every angle, checked for interference from satellites, aircraft, ground-based electronics, ran the data through every filter they had. The signal showed a slight frequency drift. Exactly the drift you'd expect if it was coming from a planet rotating on its axis and orbiting its star. The math matched Proxima b's orbital characteristics. For a brief moment, the scientists allowed themselves to consider the impossible. A technological civilization on the nearest star. 4 years away at the speed of light. A neighbor. Then, in late 2020, the news leaked. The Guardian newspaper broke the story. Scientists detect signal from nearest star system. The world went briefly, cautiously insane. The Breakthrough Listen team had to move fast. They published their findings before completing their investigation, and their conclusion was complicated. They said BLC-1 was probably terrestrial interference. Probably. The signal's frequency matched patterns, sometimes produced by oscillators in electronic devices. A clock somewhere, a computer, something on Earth. But here's what they couldn't explain. They never found the source of the interference. They searched every electronic device within range of the telescope. Nothing matched. The signal appeared only when pointed at Proxima Centauri. If it was local interference, it should have appeared regardless of where the telescope was aimed. It didn't. The frequency drift matched what you'd expect from a transmitter on a rotating planet. But the official explanation said the drift was also consistent with certain types of interference. convenient coincidence. In October 2021, the team published their final analysis. Their conclusion: BLC-1 was interference. Case closed. But the paper contained a curious admission. The source of the interference was never identified. They blamed something they couldn't find. They rejected the extraordinary explanation not because they proved it wrong, but because they couldn't accept it might be right. Some scientists involved in the investigation privately admit they still wonder. Not that it was definitely aliens, but that the case was closed too quickly, that the rush to explain away the inexplicable won out over genuine curiosity. BLC-1 remains in the archives, explained but not solved, a signal from the nearest star that checked almost every box for extraterrestrial intelligence. Dismissed because the alternative was too terrifying to seriously consider, the telescopes are still pointed at Proxima Centauri, still listening. And some nights, the astronomers wonder if, maybe, just maybe, they dismissed something they should have taken more seriously. 4 light years away. That's a 25 trillion mile radio call. And for 5 hours in April 2019, something might have been calling. We told ourselves it was interference. Maybe it was. But we never found what interfered. And now the signal is gone. If someone was calling, they might have stopped waiting for us to answer. But all these signals, strange as they are, pale compared to the one that started it all. The signal that still defines what we're searching for. The one that wrote "wow" in red ink across the history of science. Number 1, the WOW signal. August 15th, 1977, Delaware, Ohio. The Big Ear radio telescope has been scanning the sky for 22 years, searching for something that shouldn't exist. The telescope is part of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Every night it listens to the cosmos, recording radio signals onto miles of computer printout paper. Most nights, nothing but static, background noise of the universe. The data is analyzed days later by volunteer astronomers. On August 18th, astronomer Jerry Amon sits down with a stack of printouts and a red pen. Routine work. He's done this hundreds of times. The printout uses numbers and letters to indicate signal strength. 1 is weak, 9 is strong. After 9, it switches to letters, A, B, C. Most signals barely register, 1s and 2s. Background noise. Then Amon sees something that makes him stop, a sequence that shouldn't be there. 6EQUJ5. He stares at it, checks the scale, checks it again. The letter U represents a signal 30 times stronger than the background noise. 30 times. In 22 years of listening, they had never seen anything close to this. Nothing natural produces a signal this powerful and this narrow. Amon circles the sequence in red ink, and in the margin, he writes the only word that captures the moment. Wow. The signal lasted exactly 72 seconds. That's precisely how long the Big Ear telescope would observe any point in space as the Earth rotated. The signal rose in intensity as the telescope approached it, peaked, then faded as Earth turned away. Perfect textbook behavior for a signal from deep space. The signal came from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, near a star group called Chi Sagittarii, approximately 120 light-years from Earth, and the frequency, 1420.456 megahertz, the hydrogen line, the same frequency that scientists had always predicted an intelligent civilization would use to make contact. The universal hello. The signal was narrow-band, incredibly precise. Natural cosmic sources produce broad, messy signals across many frequencies. This was tight, focused, engineered. The Big Ear team immediately tried to find it again. They pointed the telescope at the same coordinates the next night. Nothing. The night after that, nothing. They kept trying for weeks, months, years. The signal never returned. Other telescopes around the world joined the search. The Very Large Array in New Mexico, the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, the Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia. They all pointed at the same coordinates. They all heard nothing. For 47 years, astronomers have searched for a repeat of the WOW signal. Over 100 dedicated observation campaigns, thousands of hours of telescope time. The most sustained search for a single signal in the history of SETI. The mainstream explanations have piled up over the decades. A secret military satellite, a reflection off space debris, an unusual hydrogen cloud, a comet releasing gas as it approached the sun. In 2017, astronomer Antonio Paris proposed that the signal came from two comets, 266P Christensen and P 2008 Y2, that were passing through the region in 1977. He claimed case closed. The mystery was solved. But other astronomers immediately challenged the claim. The comets weren't in the right position. Their hydrogen emissions wouldn't be strong enough. And comets don't produce narrowband signals. They produce broad, diffuse emissions. The comet hypothesis was published in a minor journal with minimal peer review. Most mainstream astronomers consider it debunked. The WOW signal remains unexplained. Here's what makes the WOW signal truly unique. Every other candidate signal in SETI history has been explained away. Equipment malfunction, terrestrial interference, human error, every single one. Except this. Astronomer Robert Gray spent decades trying to relocate the signal. He wrote an entire book about his obsession. He used the Very Large Array, the most powerful radio telescope network on Earth. He found nothing, but he never stopped believing the signal was real. Jerry Amon, the astronomer who first spotted the signal, spent the rest of his life analyzing it. He ruled out every earthly explanation he could think of. Satellites, aircraft, ground-based transmitters, reflections. None of them fit. Before his death in 2022, Amon was asked what he thought the signal was. His answer was careful, scientific. I don't know what it was, but I know what it wasn't. It wasn't noise. It wasn't interference. It was something. Some astronomers believe the signal was a one-time transmission, a lighthouse beam sweeping past Earth for just 72 seconds. We happened to be listening at exactly the right moment. We might never be in the right place again. Others suggest the signal was meant for us specifically, a deliberate transmission toward Earth that was never meant to repeat. A hello, a single ping into the darkness to see if anyone was listening. We were. And then they went silent. In 2012, on the 35th anniversary of the signal, Arecibo Observatory transmitted a response. 10,000 Twitter messages beamed toward the WOW signal's origin. Humanity's reply to something we still don't understand. If the signal came from around 120 light-years away, our response will arrive in 120 years. And if anyone answers, we won't hear back for another 120 years. Any reply would reach an Earth we can barely imagine. Our great-great-great-grandchildren might receive the response to a message we sent. The Big Ear telescope was demolished in 1998 to make way for a golf course. The instrument that detected the most significant signal in SETI history was torn down for a driving range. But the original printout survives. That piece of paper with 6EQUJ5 circled in red ink, with WOW scrawled in the margin. It's preserved at Ohio State University. The most important document in the history of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. 47 years, that's how long we've been waiting for the WOW signal to return. 47 years of pointing telescopes at that patch of sky. 47 years of silence. What was it? We still don't know. Maybe we never will. But for 72 seconds on a summer night in Ohio, something reached out across the cosmos. Something powerful enough to cut through the noise of the universe. Something that chose the exact frequency we'd been waiting to hear. And then it was gone, like a voice calling your name in a crowd. You heard it. You know you heard it. But when you turn around, no one is there. The WOW signal remains the strongest candidate for extraterrestrial communication ever detected. Not confirmed, not explained, not repeated. Just one word, scrawled in red ink on a piece of printer paper. Wow! 5 signals. 5 moments when the universe seemed to whisper something we weren't supposed to hear. The black night watching from orbit, the impossible signal from nowhere, cosmic screams from distant galaxies, a call from our nearest neighbor, and the wow that started it all. We've explained most of them away. Interference, glitches, comets, natural phenomena. The mundane answers are always easier to accept than the extraordinary ones. But here's what haunts the astronomers who've dedicated their lives to listening. The universe is vast beyond comprehension. 400 billion stars in our galaxy alone. 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. And in all that incomprehensible space, we've found almost nothing. This is called the Fermi paradox, named after physicist Enrico Fermi, who asked a simple question over lunch in 1950. Where is everybody? If the universe is so vast, so ancient, so full of potential homes for life, why haven't we been overwhelmed with signals? Why isn't the sky buzzing with communication? Why the silence? There are explanations. Maybe intelligent civilizations are rare. Maybe they destroy themselves before they can spread to the stars. Maybe they're out there, but we're looking in the wrong way, at the wrong frequencies at the wrong time. Or maybe, and this is the possibility that keeps scientists awake at night, maybe the silence itself is the message. Maybe advanced civilizations learn to stay quiet. Because something out there is listening. Something you don't want to attract. The dark forest theory. The idea that the universe is like a dark forest at night, full of armed hunters. The first rule of survival. Don't make noise. Don't attract attention. Don't let anyone know you're there. And here we are. For over a century, we've been broadcasting our existence to the universe. Radio signals, television, radar. Every transmission expanding outward at the speed of light. A growing sphere of noise announcing exactly where we are. Maybe someone heard us. Maybe that's what the wow signal was. Not a hello, a warning, one flash of, we know you're there. Then silence. Deliberate, pointed silence. Or maybe, just maybe, the signals we've detected are exactly what they appear to be. Attempted contact from civilizations so far away that conversation is impossible. Hellos that take centuries to arrive. Questions we won't live long enough to hear answered. The truth is, we don't know. After 60 years of searching, we have more questions than answers. The silence of the universe remains its greatest mystery. But we keep listening. Every night, radio telescopes around the world point at the sky and listen. Because the alternative is to assume we're alone. And in a universe this vast, that might be the most terrifying possibility of all. Somewhere out there, right now, a signal might be traveling toward Earth. A message launched centuries ago from a world we'll never see. It might arrive tomorrow, or in 1,000 years, or never. All we can do is keep watching, keep listening, keep asking the question that Jerry Amon asked when he wrote that single word in red ink. Wow, what was that? And will we ever hear it again? Thanks for watching. If you want to explore more mysteries, check out the video on screen now. And if you're not subscribed yet, consider joining. We've got a lot more unexplained signals to investigate. Until next time, keep looking up.